Hi, welcome to Stepping Out. I'm Sandy Tomlinson, and today's show is going to floor you, I hope. It's all about fish, and it's not about eating them, is it, Frank Gardner?
Well, I hope not.
You especially hope not. Mm-hmm. Frank Gardner owns Frank's Tanks here in Fort Worth, and he is our host for the next 30 minutes. Now, Frank, we have tons of questions because I actually met you when you were taking care of my dentist's huge, gorgeous tropical fish tank, and you educated me so that I thought this would be a fascinating show. Am I right?
Absolutely.
All right. I was fascinated to find out that all these things that I think are just plants are really living. Tell me.
They're actually living animals.
And let's tell the viewers about some of them.
Well, every one of these corals are actually living animals. I mean, and they come from different parts of the world. They're all capable of eating. They're capable of stinging. Although I've never been stung by one, they're capable certainly of stinging other corals.
Because you have to handle them all the time.
Absolutely.
So how, show me one that you think is, you say they're all capable of stinging?
Yes, ma'am.
So with every single one of those, even though they look harmless like this, what is this?
Well, this is a clam right here. This is a Corsia clam, and it's not one of the things that can sting you. This one, not a coral at all.
And how does it get its food?
Well, most of them are filter feeders. You can actually target feed them. Some of the stuff that we feed to the fish, these corals, these clams, are actually capable of filter feeding some of the stuff that comes out of them.
So does he like open, or is this the way he always is, or does it open?
He's capable of opening up a little bit more. He is open right now. When they're completely closed, you'll see where the two sides of the shell will actually touch each other.
All right, now what is this?
This is a feather duster here. It's actually a worm, believe it or not.
A worm?
That's a worm, and that's the tip of the head.
You see, they're so beautiful, you don't expect any of them to be worms, but tell me about it.
Well, it's another filter feeder right there. There's nothing that we put in the water directly for the purpose of feeding that fish. When other things are fed, or for feeding that animal, when other things are fed, it just filter feeds.
All right, let's turn towards the camera for a minute. Let my viewers get a good look at Frank from Frank's Tanks. And Frank, tell me how you got into this, because you were talking to me about fish and some of the things I was asking you. You're very well educated on this subject. How?
Well, I've been doing it for quite a while. I mean, even as a child, I always had an aquarium, mostly freshwater in my younger years. But I just had an interest in the reef, and I thought I'd give it a shot. And of course, back in the day, you'd hear people talking about how difficult it is to maintain a system. And a few years ago, I mean, it was more difficult than it is to maintain one now.
Why?
Well, there was just a lot of things. There were a lot of things to it, and different companies have come out with different types of products to make it a lot simpler to keep a reef system.
Now, because you have some very expensive tropical fish, how are these fish shipped to you? Easy for me to say. How are these fish shipped to you?
Well, actually, most of the stuff that I get come in from California and Florida. It's actually shipped in from other places, like the Solomon Islands, Fiji, and other places, Hawaii. But they're actually bagged with plenty of oxygen. Sometimes you lose some fish in the shipping because different things happen in the bags in transit. They're actually bagged, and then they're boxed, and And but like I said, sometimes you will lose some of your fish because the pH changes in the bag depending on how long they're in shipping. But they come in from different parts of the world. Most of them drop shipped into to California and to Florida and then sent to us from those places.
Okay, I'm going to step back at this tank right here while you come up here. And I want to ask you about every single one of these animals, call them animals.
They are animals indeed.
They're animals. Do they all, how are they all maintained in the same atmosphere is what I want to know.
Well, some of them, as I mentioned a moment ago, so they are capable of stinging each other, so you have to know what you can put next to what.
And how do you find that out, Frank?
Well, you have to be a little...
You will tell me, but who told you?
Well, I did a lot of reading. I did tons of reading. I did a lot off the internet. I picked up a lot of books. I used to always go to the library and read up on it. I knew there was going to be an expensive hobby,
wow.
So I wanted to know what was going to work with what. And sometimes, you know, when you get into this this hobby, and it is a hobby, it's an awesome hobby. Sometimes when you get into it, you're going to lose some things, but you don't want to lose anything because you didn't know exactly what you were doing when you did it.
That's a good point. Because you wouldn't want a huge, expensive fish that maybe would eat another expensive fish in the same tank.
That is absolutely right, and that's one of the things that I go over with the customers. When my customers come in and they're asking for, if they see something in one of the systems that they're interested in, the first thing I ask them is what do they have in the tank that it'll be going in with, because you're exactly right. There are a lot of fish that you actually feed smaller fish too, like goldfish, guppies, and mollies. You feed those to a lot of the fish, lionfish and stuff like that. But the last thing you want to do is stick a $30 fish in there with another
$500 fish, and the $500 fish isn't there in the morning.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, do your customers know the names of the kinds of fish they have? I don't think I would be smart enough to know.
A lot of times, most of the customers that we have that come into this store right here have been into the hobby for some time themselves, and we do get some newcomers. But a lot of them can actually come in and ask for what they want by name.
Really? All right, can we bend down here and let the camera see? These little fellows fascinate me. They're gorgeous, especially if you were a University of Texas alum, which I am, orange and white. What are they?
These are percula clowns, and these fish are very popular saltwater fish, but made more so by the movie Finding Nemo.
So they were in the movie, huh?
These are the stars of the movie themselves.
The stars. And what is this?
That's called a Galaxia coral there.
And it's also an animal, right?
It's a living animal, yes, ma'am.
And this?
This is called a rasta. It's actually a type of finger leather.
Now, I hate to say this, but look, here's a gorgeous yellow. What is he?
That's called a yellow tang. It's a surgeon fish, and well, I don't know if you can see it very well, but on the very back of the tail, there's a little white spike. It's called a scalpel, and that's what they use to defend themselves.
So he's a surgeon fish?
That's correct.
Now, there is a fascinating character behind him. In fact, there are several fascinating characters. I'm hoping that my camera can get these, because I've never seen anything like, what in the world are those with the huge whiskers?
Well, these are cleaner shrimp, and they're also from the movie Finding Nemo. If you remember the character Jacques from Finding Nemo.
No, this is the first Finding Nemo experience I'm having, is right here today.
Well, these are the cleaner shrimp right here, and what they do, a lot of times fish get ick or some type of external parasite. They will actually allow these shrimp to attach to their bodies and pick the parasites off of them.
This is so fascinating.
So it's a must for any aquarium. I mean, if you have an aquarium with fish, you're definitely going to want some cleaner shrimp.
But they are the most fascinating creatures I have ever seen, and they were all hiding. I now see 1, 2, 3, 4. They were all hiding behind the coral, but now what makes them come out?
Well, they probably think that I'm getting ready to feed them.
Oh, really? Because do they actually see you? They have these huge pop-up eyes, but do they actually see you?
Yes, they do, and there's a lot of fish and different types of animals like that for the aquarium. they'll get used to the owner or somebody coming to the front of the tank, knowing that it's feeding time, and they will come out from the back.
All right, Frank, if they think that you are going to feed them, what do you feed them? Because if you say they clean up the tanks, what do you then add to their menu?
There's all types of food. One of the things that I like to do, and I try to encourage other people to do, is to feed their fish a variety. We use bloodworms. There's mysis shrimp. We use frozen brine shrimp and some live brine shrimp, as well as flakes and other types of food.
All right, let's move back to the next tank, because what do we have in here that's different? Do we have anything?
Well, there's a different type of shrimp there. This one is called a fire
gorgeous.
shrimp. It's an absolutely beautiful shrimp. For the aquarium, it has, the only purpose that it actually serves is its ornamental value. It's a very beautiful animal, and people buy that just for what you see right there, just its beauty.
He is gorgeous, but is that shrimp delicate? Because he looks very delicate.
There's some talk in the hobby about how any shrimp can be fairly delicate in terms of values of pH, adjustments in the salinity, and temperature. But I've not had any problems with any shrimp.
All right, we've got what's he back here?
Now that's a maroon clown. It's a gold bar, or some people prefer to call them a yellow bar maroon clown.
A maroon clown.
One of the mean clownfish.
All right, tell us about them.
I mean, it's a beautiful fish, as you can see.
Beautiful.
This particular fish, I've actually had for probably about 3 or 4 years. I sold a system, a complete system, and it had this very fish in it. But every time the owner was purchasing other fish, like smaller clownfish, like the pergola here that you see, he was attacking. and in some cases, he's killed several fish before they finally brought it back to me.
But yet he hasn't hurt these two guys.
Well, I make sure that they stay separated here.
Oh, I see. There's a little piece of glass there. And he hasn't hurt your shrimp.
No, he's not going to attack the shrimp. There's normally a lot of fish, whether it be marine or freshwater fish, they'll attack other fish that have the same body shape and the same body design.
That's very unusual to me. But let me ask you a question. Are all this particular type of clownfish mean, or is it just he?
Well, he's certainly not the only one, but not all of them. I would say that the pergola is a fairly docile animal. Can get a little feisty, but that one is definitely not the only clownfish. There's one called a clarky clown, and it can also be pretty doggone mean. When we sell, we sell a clown. If you want a clownfish, we'll sell you just the clownfish. If you want an anemone, we'll certainly sell you an anemone. They do have a great relationship in the fact that these anemone fish or clownfish actually, when they go out to feed, they'll actually bring food back to the anemone to allow it to eat.
How wonderful! So it's a gopher. It's a gopher for an anemone.
That would be another good common name for the fish.
All right, now can I help you up?
Please.
I want to walk over to this particular tank because, Frank, if you stand there and tell me, is that a starfish?
That is a real starfish. Yes, it is.
And why have I never seen anything like that before? It's orange. It's just beautiful.
And there's several different types of starfish. There's several different colors. This is one of the hardier starfish, I might say. There are tons of different colors and different types of starfish. This certainly being one of the hardier ones.
It's beautiful. Well, what is this little orange? I used to have a blouse in that color with that pattern on it.
Well, this fish is called a long-nosed hawk. It's an awesome fish. A very common fish for saltwater, for a reef, definitely reef safe.
A common fish?
For reef system, absolutely. It's known to do all kinds of things. There's a worm called a bristle worm that not necessarily harmful to a tank, but a lot of people don't like them, and they've been known to eat those. So a lot of times people actually get them to pick the worms out.
Oh, really? Now, Frank, You're able to tell me what everything is, and I am flabbergasted because I don't care how much a person studies. I don't know how you keep this all in your mind.
Well, like I said, I've been doing this for quite a while, and there are some things. There are some corals. There are tons of corals, far more than what we know about, that I wouldn't be able to identify. And every once in a while, when I get a shipment in, I'll encounter that very problem. I'll see something that I've never seen before and that I can identify.
Have you ever been to Bali or Australia or any of the exotic seaports and gone scuba diving or whatever?
Well, I haven't been to Bali or Australia, two of the places that I definitely love to go. I am a certified scuba diver, and I have been to a few places, into the Bahamas, into Jamaica, Grand Cayman.
Do you see any of these kind of fish or coral
Absolutely.
in the Bahamas?
You see them on a large scale. What you see here, you see some very small stuff in comparison to what you see when you are scuba diving.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. There, I see you've got, okay, is that a feather duster?
That is
up
another
there?
feather duster.
And it's different colors than the one we saw.
Yeah, and there are several different types, several different colors of feather dusters.
So, is it possible that like in 5 years they might melt together and have all different colors? Or
And well, to be honest with you, I don't know very much about the reproduction of a lot of marine animals. In fact, not very many people, marine biologists included, know very much about the reproduction of marine animals.
Why is that?
I don't know if they're not sure if it's the time of night, the temperatures. The salt that we use to create a system like this is a synthetic sea salt that we mix with water. And they have the elements that they know exist in ocean water, they use in these salts. They mix in these salts, but there's so many things that are out in the ocean that we don't even have a clue about.
Goes to show you how big the world is.
It's pretty big.
And they want to put another man on Mars, okay. Now look, you've got the sea grapes back there, right?
That's actually called a bubble coral there.
Oh, that's a bubble
A lot of people call it the sea grapes. You've probably seen a large one. You're familiar with a larger one. Your dentist's office.
Yeah, where I met you. Now, are the sea grapes and the bubble corals not related?
No, ma'am, they're not. They're not. There's no relationship whatsoever.
All right, we're going to take a brief break so that we can walk over and see what I think is one of the most fascinating fish I've ever seen.
And it certainly is.
Stay with us. Frank, this to me is the star of the show. Although you're pretty much the star of the show, these are the secondary stars. Tell me what this is.
This is called a red volatile lionfish.
And what are the characteristics of this fish?
Well, I tell you what, he's an awesome fish, as you can see that.
Awesome.
And he is also a very poisonous fish.
A very poisonous fish.
Yes, he is.
So how do we trust him with that gorgeous purple fish? And you have another gorgeous fish. Get that other one, if you can, scare him in into the camera, because here's one. So how do we keep him in the same tank?
Well, he doesn't have a poisonous bite, and he's not necessarily aggressive as for going after other fish unless they're small enough to fit into his mouth. Because anything that he eats whole.
So
we feed this one goldfish.
Eat those two.
Absolutely not. He couldn't fit those into his
here.
mouth. So he's not a threat at all to those fish.
All right. What is he blowing up now? Does he get? He seems to change shape.
It's kind of just opening up his wingspan.
Am I scaring
showing
you,
off a little bit
Sonny?
right now.
Oh, you're showing off for me. Hey, I like that attitude.
See the little dorsal fins back on the back? That's where he injects the poison. So he's not going to actually come after you. If you're in the tank cleaning, he's not going to come after you. I've never experienced anything like that.
That's
but if you accidentally
point.
get stuck on the back, if you can see right through the top of his dorsal.
How would you medicate yourself if you did get stung by it?
I would say if you got stung by one of those, go to the doctor, let them medicate you. It's going to hurt.
Really?
I've heard all kinds of things as for taking care of yourself. You put the wound up under some very hot water, as hot as you could stand. But from other encounters that I've heard, other problems that people have had with these fish right here, I would definitely suggest going to the doctor.
Well, I won't have to worry. What is this?
And that's called a snowflake moray eel.
He's gorgeous.
He is another
If an
beautiful
eel
animal.
can be gorgeous, this guy's gorgeous.
He's another gorgeous fish.
Now look, say I wanted to start a tank, and I came in here. How would you start me on a tank? What would I do? What would I have to do?
Well, with salt water is a little bit different from fresh water in the sense that you want to get everything that you're going to need to start a saltwater tank. What you're going to do, basically, you get your tank, you're going to mix up the synthetic sea salt, and you're going to go through a cycling period. We call it a nitrification cycle. And what you're going to do, you're going to get all your filtration running, and there's several different ways. There's different types of powders and on the market that you can use to actually start the bacteria up in your gravel bed, in your water, in your filtration that you're going to need to sustain fish life. Or you can use a piece of live rock. This is called live rock. This is actually from Fiji. So you can put a piece of live rock in there, and it will help speed up that cycle. It takes you about 4 to 6 weeks to get a tank cycle before you want to even attempt to put in expensive fish in.
And then how would I know, unless I called you, because that's how I would know, how would anybody else know what fish to put in to make them compatible?
Well, one of the things that you can do, and I suggest this to people all the time, you can look on the internet. I mean, for the most part, you'll be able to find internet charts.
Call Frank's tanks.
I would absolutely, well, that would definitely be another thing. And that's one of the things that I do, as I mentioned, if a customer comes in here and they see a fish that they like, it's not, though we'd love to have a sale, I don't just sell the fish. Because the last thing that you're going to want is for somebody to come in and spend any amount of money. Saltwater fish aren't cheap. They spend the fish, and it turns out to be, spend the money for the fish, and it turns out to be food for another fish. So the last thing you want to do is give a fish a $50 meal.
Could you have a tank, say this size, with just him in, or maybe a female? How do we know he's the male, by the way?
Now, I am not very familiar with, and neither are a lot of people, as for what's male and female on the fish. And there, of course, in the marine world, there's a lot of males that actually do the reproducing.
That's right. I've heard that. But let me ask you this: are fish like birds? The brighter the bird, the
a lot of times mean that it will be the
bird.
male. A lot of times that certainly will mean that it will. But in these, all of these are just gorgeous. I mean
that's true. How could you tell which one's prettier?
And I would not know that.
Do we have names for these guys? Like, are they your pets?
Occasionally I'll call him Leo, just Leo the lion.
Leo the lion.
I don't normally name the fish that come through the place.
Look how he's opening his mouth.
He's got a pretty big mouth.
My gosh.
He's got a pretty big mouth.
And what does he eat, this little?
I feed goldfish to him. I feed krill, which is pieces of shrimp. Occasionally I'll actually run to the store and buy
real shrimp?
Buy real shrimp and drop it in there. And he has no problem taking a big one down.
So you don't go home and barbecue for them or anything?
No, I wouldn't give him that much attention.
Although I will say one thing, Frank. When I first met you, like I say, at my dentist's gorgeous tank in his office, I realized immediately that you were probably the most knowledgeable, maybe one of the most knowledgeable people in Fort Worth. Do museums or aquariums call you for your advice?
I've not been called by any of the museums or any of the other aquariums in the Fort Worth area now. I've been doing this for a long time. A lot of, for the most part, I've been doing it from home. We've been open up for just about 5 months now, and people are just starting to find out that we're actually here. So we are starting to get a lot of calls. Haven't gotten any yet from museums or aquariums. And as for the knowledge, I try to keep knowledgeable with this, but there are definitely other people out there with a considerable amount of knowledge where this marine hobby is involved.
Well, I can't thank you enough, Frank.
Well, I thank you very much for coming out. Thank you.
I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I'm still so fascinating. I don't want to stop the show, but we've got to. And thank you. Tune us in again next week. God bless America.
Thank you.
Bye now.